So you have your qualitative data, but you don't want to use any software. You just want to manually go through the data, identify information that are significant, and develop codes and themes to address your research questions. So what about using Microsoft Word document to help you to make sense of your data? And this is what I'm going to show you. You don't have to think about any software. We're going to use Microsoft Word document to analyze your qualitative data. But I think one thing that you have to think about is that when you don't want to spend time analyzing your data using a software, or you have a small amount of data, you can do manual coding by using Microsoft. So let's go to the process. There are only 6 steps that you have to follow. The first one is to label your research question. Why should you label your research question? As you know, when you are doing research, especially qualitative research, you should have the purpose of your study, or you should have objective of your study, and also the questions that you want to address using the data, right? So having your research question is very important. The reason why you are going through the data is to identify information that are significant to help you to address your research questions. So it's so important for you to first label your research question. So when you see anything that is important from the data, you just put it under their respective research question that you have, right? What people are interested in is how does the data address the research question that you have. So you label your research question. So first, have to make sure that you identify the specific question that you want to address. And the questions are not the interview questions. So the interview questions are used to collect rich information from participants, and then you use the research question to analyze the data to identify themes and codes and address it, right? So you have your research questions that you label them. That will help you to organize the information that you're going to extract. As you can see, we're going to use a data which is generated just for the purpose of demonstration. It's an interview data from 5 participants who are physicians. So the purpose of the study is to find out the causes and the solutions of burnout among primary healthcare physicians. And there are 2 research questions that we want to address. The first one is, what are the causes of burnout among primary healthcare physicians? And then the label for that is burnout causes. Always think about the label as a way of representing the research question. It's going to help you to know the question that you have to address, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It can be in between 2 to 5 words, just representing the research question. So the second one is, what can be done to reduce burnout among primary healthcare physicians? And then the label will be burnout solutions. So these are the 2 labels that we have, and then to help us to organize the codes or the information that we're going to extract from the data. So now that we have our first step, let's go to our second step. The second step is to apply coding method. So think about this way. So let's think about, the overall qualitative analysis, right? So there are 2 main types of qualitative analysis. We have the thematic analysis and also content analysis. So the thematic analysis is all about going through the data, identify information that are significant, developing codes and themes to help you to address your research question that you have, right? So you develop themes based on what you see in the data. Content analysis is most of the time you have already developed codes and themes, maybe based on their conceptual framework or based on the literature that you have already reviewed, or based on the initial information that you have gotten from one of the interviews, right? So you have the topics, or you have the concept, or you have themes, and then you go through the data, look for evidence, extract them, and connect them to the themes that you have. So in this process, we are going to use thematic analysis because we don't have predefined themes or code. We just want the data to tell us the kinds of information that we have to code and the labels that we have to give them so that we can bring them under the research question. After choosing the data analysis method, right, you can also think about the coding technique that you have to use. And there are several coding techniques that you can use. One of them is description focused coding, and another one is interpretation focused coding. Because of time, we just want to limit ourselves to description focused coding. As the name implies, you are identify information that is significant that can address the research question, and then describing, right? You are just like a reporter describing the evidence that you see, right? Describing what you see, describing the information that you have extracted. And you can describe it using a phrase, which is a code representing the information, at the same time helping to address your research question. We normally use description focused coding when the information that you need is right there in the data. You don't have to interpret, you don't have to analyze and make sense of it to be able to extract meanings from it. The information is right there, and in this case, participants were directly asked about the causes and also the solution of burnout. So we can use the description focused coding. If you want to know more, my book will be very helpful for you. Let me go to show you my book, right? And I think if you can get access to this. So this book will give you all the information about different types of coding strategies. So if you get it, and if you are new to coding, this book will be so helpful for you. You can get access to that information. So when you go through the data, the transcript, as you can see here, the excerpt of the transcript, we identify information that are significant. When you identify information that are significant, significant information is any information that can address one of your research questions. The reason why you are going to the grocery store is to buy ingredients to help you to cook a meal. So the meal dictates the kind of ingredients you need to buy from the grocery store. The research question dictates the kind of information that is relevant for you to use them to address your research question that you have. So in this case, you can see that we first selected long hours as one of the causes. And then when I'm coding, I start with the label for the research question, which is burnout causes, and then column, and I give the phrase, which is the code. So the code is having long hours, but the information here is the research question, right? So the label for the research question first, and then you state the code. So that's how you're gonna do for the description focused code. Let me stop here and go to Word document, right, and show you the document. So all this is already being coded. So let me try to open one of the code. So one thing is that the easier way is to put all the transcript on one page, right, and then do the coding. That's the easier way. Or you can do it separately. You open a document with one transcript, you can go through and then identify information that are significant and do the coding, right? Or, as I said, the easier way is to put everything on one page, especially if the information is not a lot. So you can see that I've put all participant responses, all the interview transcript on one page. So let me try to open a fresh one. So participant one is right. So as I said, you can have everything on one document or you can do it separately. Let's assume that this is one of your transcripts, right? So you are going through the data. What you have to think about is that not all the information that the participant has given you is significant. Not all the information. You are just going through and identifying information that can help you to address your research question. So when we see this as significant long hours, what do? You select that, you go to review, you click on new comment, and then you start with the label for the research question. This one is about the causes of burnout. So you can type burnout causes, and then you put a column there and you indicate the label that represent the significant information you have identified. So think about it. The question is, what are the causes of burnout? One of the causes of burnout is having long hours. And then you can also make this one bold so that it will be different from the code that you come up with, right? If you use a phrase from participant, or you use participant own words to develop a code, you can just put a quotation mark here to show that this information is directly from participant, right? You don't have to do it, but just remind yourself that, okay, this information or this phrase is directly from participant, right? You can do that. So when you finish, you click on this one. Let me pull this one up a little bit here. And then you go to the next one, numerous clinical and administrative tasks. That's another cause of burnout. So when you see that, first of all, which research question is this one related? It's about the causes of burnout. Then you think about what phrase should I use, right, to represent this information. You can come up with a phrase like having numerous work-related tasks. So when you decide, you select that, you go to review, comment. First, bring the label representing the research question, and then column, and then bring the label for the code, right? So make this one bold, and then click on this icon. So that's how you're gonna do. You go through, if you see anything like, oh, this one, spending time in prayer and reflection could be part of the solutions of burnout, right? So you can decide, okay, what label should I use? Maybe engaging in meditation, right? So you go to new comment, and then burnout solutions, and then you type engaging in meditation. So that's how you're gonna do. You go to identify information that is significant and then label them. So this is what I've done so far, right? So this is also demographics of participants, right? So you have 5 participants, and these are their age, gender, years of experience, and ethnicity, right? And then I went through and code them. So the coding, as I said, identify information that are significant, and then you click on the review, comment, bring this information here, the research question, and then bring the code. You can use a code more than one. So you can see here that I've used having numerous work-related tasks. When I go to the second participant says something similar, right? Then you can use the same code, right? So you can use the same code to apply to multiple significant information that you identify from the data, right? So that's how you're gonna do. You go through and then develop code, or use code that you already developed if it's representing the significant information that you found. So after that, what do you do next? So let me show you what you have to do next after this one. Let me see. What do you have to do next? So imagine that you have gone through everything and coded, right? What you have to do next is to compile. So I think now we have initial codes. You're gonna have a lot of codes, right? So then the next step that you have to think about is, so we finish with step 1, step 2. We are going to step 3, which is compile initial codes. So all these that we did was, developing initial codes, right? So what you have to do is you have to extract all the codes, compile them so that you can prepare them for you to start categorizing them, right? So it's very important for you to do that. So now we extract all the codes, we remove any duplicates, and I will show you how to do that. And then you compile unit codes, right? And then you can start organizing the code so that you'll be able to group them and start the grouping process and developing themes, right? So let's go through the next process. So let's go back to the document, right? So now what you have to do is to compile all the codes. How do you do that? So you go to File and then Save As, and make sure that here you choose Web Page, and then you can save it where you want to save that information. Give it a name that you can remember, right? So you can say that Burnout Project, any name that you want to give, and then I will save it on my end here. After saving it, you can go back there and open it, right? So now it's on the web page form. So I go back and then open that document I saved and open that project. And this is how you're going to see, right? It will show all the places that has been coded. But the most important, what we are interested in, is the information down here. You see that all the comments has been compiled here, right? So what you have to do is to select the comments, copy that, and then you can put it on the different page. So this is how what you're going to see, right? And then what you have to do next is to arrange them alphabetically, right? So what you have to do is to select all of them and click on A, Z, this one, to sort it. And then click on OK. So now it has arranged alphabetically. Why do you have to do that? So that you know that some of the code you use it several times. You want to know the code that has been used several times so that you can take out any duplicate. So how do you do that? So you can see that being a young physician has been indicated 2 times. So what you have to do is in parentheses, one of them you can type 2, right? So because you want to tally them, and then remove the first one. Right here is 1 time, right? This one is 1 time. You put 1 there in parentheses. The next one is 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So you put 4 there, and then you eliminate the rest, right? So we're going to go through put the number of codes there, and if there are more than 1, you count them and then put the number beside. So when you do that, this is what you're going to see. So this is what you're going to see. So you see the list there, right here. We compile them and then we tally them, right? Okay, we compile them first and then we arrange them alphabetically so that we'll be able to tally them, right? And then after that, we move to the categorization process, right? Now, when you do that, you'll be able to separate the causes from the solutions. So we're first going to do the categorization of the courses. So the next step is to group them based on the relationship so that at the end of the day you have themes that you can use to address your research question. How do you do the groupings? You can create a table like what I've created here. So how do you create a table? First, you create a cluster table. How do you do that? You open a Word document and then you go to layout. You can put the layout in landscape because sometimes you may need more space in terms of the kinds of codes or the categories that you're going to have or clusters. And I think the first thing is that in order to remind yourself about a research question, you always have to copy and paste the research question here. So we're going to work on the causes of burnout. So that will be here, right? And then what you have to do is to create the table. You go to insert table, and then we need about 4 to 5, and it can be 4 to 6, right? Because sometimes you may not know the number of clusters that you're going to have. So in this case, I want to create only 5, and then 5 columns, 2 rows, right? And then the first column, you type cluster 1, and you can copy this one, put it here, and then do cluster 2, cluster 3, cluster 4, cluster 5, right? So why are you doing all these things? You want to sort, you want to group the codes because you have a lot of codes. You cannot present the codes as your findings. It's too much for people to consume. You have to examine each of the codes and see whether you can categorize them, and then you'll be able to label the categories, and that could be themes addressing a research question. So you put the cursor here and then open this second row so that you can put that information there. And then what you can do is that let me bring all the codes here. I'm bringing only the codes that are related to the research question 1. So I bring it down here. And then what you're going to do is that you review each of them and put them into the clusters, right? So I think you already understand why the numbers are here. It's the number of times that you apply this code to a significant information. So this code was applied 2 times to the data, right? So 2 excerpts from the data are connected to this theme. So being a young physician could be here. Put it here, and I click on this one to give it a bulletin form to make it a bullet, and then bring it back here, right? Then we go to the next one. So we finished with this one. So you can either delete or just click on cancel. right? So go to feeling inadequate. Sometimes when you are young, there's a higher probability that you feel inadequate, and that could also lead to burnout. So it has some relationship with the being a young physician, right? Because you haven't had that experience. So this one is related to that. So we can bring this one here. You have to be very flexible here because you can change your mind and you realize that, oh, this information doesn't really belong here. It belongs to cluster 3. Be flexible and be ready to move it to any place that you feel that is better there. And then when you finish, you can cancel that. Let's go to having long hours. Having long hours can be in cluster 2 because it doesn't really belong here. You can have long hours whether you are young or you are feeling adequate. So I think having a separate one will be good, right? And then the next one, we cancel that. So that's how we do. You evaluate each of them and also think about the information that you extracted from the data, right? That can also help you to determine which group it should belong. One thing that you have to be careful about is bringing your own information outside the data. Because you are knowledgeable about a topic or you have had that experience, you may influence how you are making sense of the data. So you always have to think about your preconceived ideas and the biases that you have and put them aside so that they will not overly influence. They may influence, but not overly influence the information that you are analyzing, right? So always remind yourself that, okay, I'm doing this because I want to make sure that the information best represents the data that I have. I can refer to the data and see what participants said, and that will give you ideas where you want to put each of them. Having numerous work-related tasks could be here, so we can put it here. So that's how we do it. You group all of them, and after that you see something like this one, right? So you see how it has been grouped. As you can see, I put these two in cluster 1 and put some of these in cluster 2. It doesn't really matter. What is important is that they are grouped in one of the clusters, right? This one can be in cluster 3 and information in cluster 3 can be in cluster 2. As I said, the most important thing is that you are grouping information that are significant and putting them under a specific cluster, whether it's cluster 4, 5, or 6. And having about 5 to 4, 5, or 6 clusters is good because at the end of the day you will be having about 4 to 6 themes. There are cases where you may go beyond the number of clusters, or we can go beyond 6 clusters. That is okay, but try as much as possible to see whether you can have not more than 6. If you want to go beyond 6, that is okay. What you can also do is that you can further group them. So let's say you have 8 or 10 clusters, and you have, based on the 10 clusters, you label the cluster like what I have here. You label the cluster based on the content that you have, and then we have about 10 clusters. And then you can further group those 10 into maybe 4 or maybe 3. And the 3 groups will be the overarching theme. And then under that, you have the main theme. So that is how you can do it. So, but I always recommend that try as much as possible to have about 4 to 6 clusters and group them. But as I said, if you have difficulty grouping some of them, then you may think about exploring further. And also, you can meet me one-on-one for us to have a discussion about this, right? So I provide methodology consultation, and when I meet you, we can discuss and address any questions that you have so that you'll be able to efficiently or effectively analyze your qualitative data and address your research question that you have. If you are interested, you can email me or you can make a comment in the comment section, and now we can have a discussion. And then my email address is info@drphilipedu.com. And also you can subscribe to my channel, right? So that I'll be able to provide you more ideas and information that will help you to do your research, especially when you are doing a qualitative research or a mixed method study. So we are done with this process, right? Then we move to the next one. You have to label the clusters. Why do you have to label the clusters? The label will help you to address your research question that you have. The labels will be the themes addressing the research question. So based on the content that you have, what best label can you use? You can see here that based on the information here, having high workload will be great, right? It represents that information here. And then you see 7, so you can call it number of excerpts extracted from the data. You can call it code count. Code count and the number of significant information that has been extracted. So the code count for this code is 4. Code count for this code is 1. So we added everything up, and then you have 7 code counts, or seven significant information that was connected to this theme, right? So these are the themes addressing the research question. So then you do the same thing for the second research question, right? You create your table, you categorize the codes, and then you label the clusters, and then you have your research question. So this is the book that I'm talking about. Step-by-step guide to qualitative data coding. You'll be able to learn a lot when you get access to this book. So this is what I have for you. It's very simple and straightforward, but I just want to let you know, if you have a huge amount of data, then I recommend for you to use a software like NVivo. And in terms of NVivo, I have a lot of videos, and also Atlas.ti, I have a lot of videos that will be very helpful for you to make sense of your data. But if you don't want to use any software, yes, you can still adequately analyze your qualitative data and to make sense of it in a way that will help you to address your research question. Okay, so this is what I have for you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be happy to address them for you. And also, please subscribe to my channel so that I'll be able to provide you a lot of videos that will be helpful for you to do your research. Thank you so much for your time.